Stop. Have you ever published a client's post that definitely wasn't approved to go out? Avoid these mistakes as a social media manager running your business. We've all been there. You've done the tasks, content, and prep, and you fully launched your business and now taking on clients, but you have one small misstep and you lose that client or that high ticket lead. These are mistakes to avoid as a social media manager. Whether you're an in-house marketing professional or looking for help, or an early career professional wanting to launch your own business and freelance, welcome to my rambling session. I'm Marlon, your go-to online bestie for anything social media. Define your life by taking control, feeling confident, by clocking out of your 9 to 5, and to pursue social media and grow your brand. These 10 mistakes make or break your career if you aren't careful. So get ahead of the game and let's check in and get into it. Now, a little disclaimer, I've been sick this week, so we're gonna try our best to get this video done. But the first mistake is undervaluing your time. So the one biggest mistake as an early career professional is not charging enough for your services. We've all been there. Whether you're new to the game and you're just trying to compete for attraction, so when you get that one lead, you tend to go at a low rate or even manage their social media for free. I personally have done this when some unpaid work, but I only for college credit or for an internship. However, as a business owner in my new entrepreneurship journey, that's a huge no. You're the expert. You're constantly analyzing, seeing what attracts, creating content from scratch versus takes time versus recycling content. So continually adjust if needed, but don't underestimate your time. If the client is over asking the scope, send them a reevaluation of the price that you need to charge. But don't take it on for free. How do you get around with what you need to charge for your services? You need to evaluate your experience and career, as well as the industry you're targeting. This is simple market research on what other people are doing with the same business profile that you're trying to target. Are they offering monthly packages? Are they doing an hourly rate? How much will it take to pay myself and the living expenses that I need to live comfortably? Those are questions that are totally reasonable. And bottom line, don't underestimate your time. This is a constant content creation game. Consider these factors when you're trying to evaluate your services as a social media agency, and make sure your time doesn't go undercharged or overpay. Here's how we ensure we're charging the right amount based on your experience. Track your time from day one. How long does it take you? How long will it take you to do that specific project? Will it take you a couple hours or will it take you a couple days? Do you want to charge monthly or hourly? These are all questions to avoid underestimating underestimating your time and your value. Mistake number 2, saying yes to every project you come across. Here's a scenario of saying yes even even after you evaluated your time. Clients ask if you can just throw this together or manage this platform when you don't even offer it in your packages, or do this extra design without a price adjustment or additional charge if that's in your pricing guide. Saying yes might seem like you're nurturing the relationship by overachieving, but honestly, you're just doing damage and work for free with and and damaging your mental health in the process. You're a business owner, so you need to focus on other priorities in your life and focus on what matters without draining your confidence or your health. When you freelance, there's this notion and this myth that freelancers don't do a lot of work. But in real life, we hustle to the point of burnout. Boundaries as a business owner and as a social media manager is critical to the growth of your business and your personal life and career. Saying no is okay, especially if you don't feel comfortable, and it's okay to cancel that contract on your end if the work in an environment's not toxic and the client hasn't met their end of the contract. Set clear service packages with what you can provide and the scope of your business to help you keep on track of what you can and can't do. If it's more than the request, the more of the request for more content that is above your basic cap, then kindly in that scenario will kind of go like this in an email. You can kindly say, "Hi, I'm happy to help. However, this is going to cause reevaluation in price. I provided a new quote, attach it, below, and if you want to go ahead, please sign and return, or let me know if you'd like to stay with your current plan if it's an already existing client and they've already paid for the prior month." Simply just trust your gut and what you can do without tapping out. Or mistake number 3, not having contracts in place. You found the client and you come to an agreement and you're excited for the project, but you start with no paperwork. Most people don't even think about having a contract in place. Contract is supposed to legally protect you, and if you're doing paid work or any work for that matter, you need to have a contract template in place that sets the timelines, policies, how payment will be made, the scope of work. If you don't have that in place, these are red bells that should go off in your head. Miscommunication and he said, she said scenarios can delay and really drag you down and drag out the project. If you don't have a contract in place for that specific project, even if it's a one-time thing, have it in place. I see this happen all the time. I see people missing out on opportunities and payment from a good client because there's miscommunication that gets jumbled both verbally and writtenly. So make sure you are legally protected, and you don't have to have a lawyer to draft one up for you, but it also can get done through HoneyBook or Desano. For example, but this doesn't substitute legal help at all. I'm not a professional in the legal field, so just make sure you have all the language correct and the pinpoints are covered in that contract that you need to before you even think about the creative process of the project that you're going to provide. Also, make sure you're paid. That's the number one most important thing. So don't let your scatterbrain take over. Streamline as much as possible to really succeed in this business. Mistake number 4, approving content without final confirmation. So you've approved a post, it's ready, you thought you ran it through the client, you put it in scheduling, and you published and push the green light, but then the client comes back and says, I didn't approve that. Well, I see two mistakes with that one problem. Your workflow isn't as streamlined as you think it is, and you always take notes on the reviewing process. If you have a 3 revision rule, then stick to that and make sure you have content, you have consent that the client is content with the work. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but at least you have the peace of mind because they gave you the green light. But that whole scenario can really break the trust and credibility of your brand that you're trying to grow. So here are some tips to make sure nothing goes unnoticed. 1, make sure your workflow is as streamlined as possible. Personally, I use Notion. I know that some other people use systems like Asana or ClickUp. But if you're really unsure, just communicate. As simple as that. It makes sure it's right the first time before you post. If you don't get that green light from that client, no post whatsoever. And just readjust the content for that month to make sure you stay on track for your client's social media plan. Now, this kind of goes hand in hand with the client approval. But if you don't have a full step-by-step process of the onboarding, then you can't jump into the content creation. Since you don't know the brand colors, the assets, the account information, the client needs to know your policy. And the great place to look at this is the onboarding process and the client welcome packet. Make sure you nail down what works for you, but have it in a step-by-step format for clear communication with the client and a fast onboarding process. This is a critical piece to working with anyone. So do a kickoff call or to clear up any confusion or questions. Since this whole beginning piece of the onboarding process can really shape and declare the process of the relationship with that person and the whole project trajectory. So ultimately, simply have that nailed down and do not skip it. Mistake number 6, not understanding basic strategy. Posting random content is not going to get you views or reach. You have to have high quality, interesting content that will really push to go far. Clients expect you to produce that content that is quick, digestible, and fast on the hook, followed by a CTA, call to action. Strategy is critical for growth and understanding the target market. For example, if you're working for a luxury pet company that sells products like leashes, collars and bandanas, daycare services for animals, the hook could be on a reel. If you need a vacation, your dog probably needs it too. Book, and then in the caption, book our daycare sessions today by DMing, I can't speak, booking. Limited spots are open. And for the footage, very simple dog running through a park. That is really so simple that it could probably launch views and be crazy on social media, especially if you add it with a trending audio. But strategy is critical to get those leads, get those files, and revenue. And you can slowly monetize so much out of social media channels if you simply focus on 1 or 2. Personally, my goal is to focus on Instagram throughout the week, but focusing on Spotify and YouTube 1 time a week as I grow. So on a note, follow me over on Instagram as I provide tips and tricks for CEOs and content creators so they can use it to thrive on social media without feeling overwhelmed or need a little extra help with their digital strategy. So catch over there if you need more behind the scenes content, but ultimately know your content pillars and show up, and your strategy will pay off in with progress made. Mistake number 7, promising results. Overpromising results. Overpromising results can be a very dangerous game when you are working as a social media manager. You really don't want to do this because if you're especially beginning, let's say a client who's a fashion brand providing accessible clothing for people with disabilities to feel empowered to rock and style, simply that's their mission statement, comes to you and says, I started a social media account to promote my accessible clothing. I did this in December, right before Christmas, but I want my online sales to triple by 50% through social media and my online store. I want to go viral by March using only organic content, but there's one problem. It happens to be right after the holidays in January and just after the holidays. So let's break that down a little bit more. First, with it being right after Christmas and the holidays, you don't, and the specific client being in sales, economy factors are extremely gets in the way. A lot of people don't shop right after Christmas unless they have a gift card or brick and mortar store because they're tight for money from Christmas. It can slow it a bit down because the person doesn't have a physical location, and it makes it hard to offer gift cards, so therefore there's a reduction in sales due to the economy if it's not doing well, and the time of year and the demand of the product. It's in such a niche market that brings me to my second point. They're so niche that it makes it harder to go viral and difficult to break through that noise. So personally, as an expert, I would meet them in the middle, not knowing that they want to do paid ads. So I would probably put the expectation around 20 to maybe 30% if they're willing to do discounts. That is how I would probably go about not overpromising. Overpromising's really simply can get done and be overdone by just saying, I can get you 60% by the end of the month and let you go viral by the end of your contract. No, we're not in that game at all, so don't do it. And that is, one, really hard to achieve, so don't set the bar too high, but evaluate your expectation and experiences. So with that internal factors into that problem to be confident of what you can deliver. And if you exceed that expectation, you can really soar and the clients will be really, really happy. Sorry, I feel like I'm talking with my hands, but it is what it is. So let's get on to the next mistake. Mistake number 8, avoiding analytics and reporting. Social media analytics are critical to growth and success of any business, as they tell you who likes your content, what is converting to sales, if website views are rising or decreasing. The metrics matter because that can validate your strategy or give you an internal signal that you might need to change. If you neglect analytics every single month, then you're missing the most critical piece of any marketing manager's job. How is the client supposed to know what's doing well and what's working within the social media strategy? And the hard truth is we track analytics to see what changes and what to improve on so we can report back to that client to tell them like you're growing or might need to slightly change this version of content and in turn you make sure you sound like an expert in social media management. And if you don't, it ultimately comes down to the trust of the client and the ability to turn social into hard business outcomes. Mistake number 9, letting your clients micromanage. Clients are how you get sales. They're the gold mine to your business. But at times, clients can micromanage. Granted, as social media managers, we encounter this all the time. They, but at the bottom line, clients know their brand's best because of their expertise. But they email you every 24 hours for a checklist on what you've done. Send after you sent the weekly check-in email. And then if they constantly be like, send me a report every single day without it being in the initial agreement, then that can be considered micromanaging. Clients come to you because you're an expert in X field of your industry. This not only applies to social media, but it applies to any industry that you think of. So as a business owner, you have to set the expectation and take what applies to your client's strategy. And if they micromanage, then you need to set boundaries on on how you're going to communicate. And if it gets too much, it gets too much. But ultimately, as a business owner, you need to set the expectation of how you're going to communicate with your client, and you're not going to work for them 8 hours a day. You set your own schedule, so make sure they're happy. They know what's going on through those weekly check-in emails. But if it gets too much, micromanaging can really damage any part of the relationship. So make sure you set clear communications of, this is when I will send you your update. If it's monthly, if it's weekly, do that so the client feels comfortable that you're actually getting the task done that needs to be done for them and the project. Mistake number 10, taking feedback personally. Here's my very last mistake to avoid as a social media manager for starting his or her business. If you created a content or graphic you produced or a reel you made for a client and sent it through the pipeline to get it approved, and you worked on forever for it, you put so much effort into it, you thought it was going to go really, really well, but then the client comes back saying, I hate it, could you redraft it? But you poured so much effort into it that you take it personally and you either get sad or angry, then you really don't know how to receive constructive criticism. And granted, I'm still personally trying to work on this on my own too. But I take a deep breath and I move on. Sometimes it's hard for me to conceptualize what they really want, but that comes with communication in time because you get to know their brand. So even though I poured myself into this one piece of content, I take the feedback. It doesn't mean they're going to hate the rest. So I take that feedback and with that single piece of content that I create, and I'll apply it to the next one. Ultimately, they're the ones who know their expertise. And ultimately, they know their business or their brand that they're trying to build or their audience. So you have to take that feedback and really apply it, because bottom line is that if you take the feedback personally, sometimes it can really ruin the relationship, even if it's incredibly minor. And sometimes if you are too hard on yourself, it can really damage your confidence in doing the job. Not everyone's going to like every piece of content that you make. And there are going to be feedbacks, there's going to be adjustments. So don't let that ruin your energy. We are all humans, we all make mistakes. Take the feedback, change it, move on. That's what my motto is. And at the end of the world, it's just content. So have the mindset that not everyone's going to like what you produce, and that's okay. You're authentically being yourself, and make the few adjustments and apply it to the next, as I keep on repeating. Sorry, I repeat a lot. But if they don't like specific footage, try another one. Is it the hook? Is it the copy? Take notes and apply it to the next round. And then that will keep the satisfaction and the project moving, but also helps you improve to be a better social media manager. I'm so glad that this is our last tip, and we made it to the end of the episode. But in our last section of this episode, I want to leave you with a tip, not necessarily a mistake. We've been through that. We talked through all the 10 mistakes that you probably need to avoid. But I want to speak about the ability to show confidence even when you're beginning. If these mistakes that I've already pointed out in this video, if you made these mistakes that I've already pointed out in this video, that's completely okay. And that's okay. You've improved, and then you can move on and do better the next time. But ultimately, with that being said, I'm going to give you a little bit of a mindset tip there. So since we're in the since the social media industry is so cutthroat and highly competitive, it's okay not to have that confidence right away. I sure don't have it, but it's a skill and emotion that you will develop. I think that's what I've learned over time. So if you get better at that skill set, you'll feel more confident. Like, personally, I'm such an introvert that, like, I spent like 4 hours just trying to get this video. But, like, this was my best result. And so I still tried at the trend. I am still developing that skill set. But the confidence is key when navigating getting these leads and handling other people's social media accounts. So it really comes down to how you perceive yourself, how you speak, how you write. But it will take time to develop, and that's okay. If you don't have experience, just rely on the best advice that I have. Be yourself and be authentic. Authenticity and proactivity go a long way when working with anybody. Research says that research the said problem to improve on it, and then move on from there. And say, I really don't know this answer, but I'll get back to you. That shows proactivity. And you want to provide the right answer to the right solution, not confuse them in the process. It's all right to say that. And if it indicates you care and the output you give to your client or any conversation that you want to give. Clients truly love results but transparency ultimately at all. Walk them through what you're doing to solve that said problem or improve on that bad batch of content that didn't do well. But stay curious and on the pulse with anything that you do, because the algorithm constantly changes. Confidence is key, but you probably won't get it right at the gate. Some people are very naturally confident, but some people, like me, which is an introvert, take time to develop. When you're first starting out in front of a camera or on that sales call or chat, there are ways to improve, but you will grow that confidence over time and get better at that skill. When you pretend to know everything, you lose the reliability of what you provide and reducing the trust and building that community. So give yourself grace and fully have a check-in to say, where am I at in this process? And what can I do to stay confident in my personal life? Because I'll tell you, you got this. Just keep on producing content. It doesn't have to be perfect. And at the end, you will stay consistent in the long run and be your best self. And there we have it. I hope this video helped you define what to look out for in handling social media clients or any industry that you encounter. Starting your own business as a freelancer can be very intimidating. But if you like this video and you found these mistakes helpful to apply in your life, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any other episodes, and on how you can start social media and thrive one step at a time. Until next time, stay social.